was wonderful. I went to Franklin, Tennessee. Have you ever been there?
No, I have not.
It has
Oh,
the
yeah.
shops in
I'm from Nashville.
Missouri. It was fun. The
Good,
girls,
good.
yeah.
Oh, that's even better.
Franklin's very historical.
I do.
But everything's blowing up in Nashville and everything, so.
Yeah, that's why we stayed out of Nashville.
Well, Franklin's pretty good size all by itself.
Yeah.
Okay, so this is the slot. Janine would be 6. Mr. Piter would be 7. So we don't have Mr. Piter on yet, do we? Just making sure. Did everybody get the updated agenda?
Yes.
Okay. So Mr. Piter is on yet? No, Jane had just said she got all. It's an echo. I have YouTube up on my desktop and it's delayed by like a minute. So it's, so I muted it. That's really weird. But I like to make sure it's all recording like it's supposed to. So. That's fun. Okay, let me check with Jana and see if Mr. Piter's there. Don't do that.
There he is. Okay, we're all here.
Okay.
Let's call this meeting to order. First business, Paragon, you're up.
Okay, so thank you guys for meeting in July. We know you guys don't typically have board meetings this month, and we really appreciate the time, especially under constraints of meeting digitally and remotely. What we've come up with is a presentation. We're essentially wanting to talk about the MoNet library branch, talk through the schedule, talk through the total project cost that's been updated since January this year, and then talk through the master plan proposal that we've been working through with Gina and Joyce. The one that's probably going to take the most time is the schedule. That was the main purpose for the meeting that we were hoping for, is to talk through timeline, when decisions get made, what the final construction and bidding schedule looks like based on when we start. I apologize that this is so small. I'll try and talk you through it as best I can. The color blocks just mean different phases. What we did was took the schedule that we have shown previously and added in a bunch more months based on COVID delays from April essentially to now. This schedule is based upon the one that you're seeing, not that we're proposing, is if the board were to approve moving forward with the MoNet library in the August board meeting, here's the fastest that we can move. Based on the August board meeting, we turn around and go out for construction manager qualifications in September. That would mean getting the qualifications back in October for the October board meeting. Turning around, they would cost estimate what we've already done. We do design development, or the second phase of design, November, December, and January. That grew from previous schedules because it lands on Thanksgiving, Christmas, and New Year's, so that phase had to get longer. That cost estimate would come back in time for the January board meeting. We do construction documents January, February, March, and April, and May. We've got a 50% cost estimate that would come in March in time for the March board meeting. We'd go out to bid in May 2021. with bids coming back in time for the June board meeting in 2021. And then from there, construction until essentially July 2022. And then from the previous schedules, we had put aside 2 months for the library to move in, occupy before opening to the public. So essentially based on approval of the project August 2020, we would be hitting opening in September, October 2022. That was the real part that we wanted to deliver, because originally it was opening, I think, first quarter 2022. And we wanted to just kind of show the impact that COVID has had on that end date, and then some of the intermediary dates. If the Monet Library was not released in August, at this point, the schedule would just kind of move back in 1 month increments based on that board meeting date. We're not saying, oh my gosh, we have to have the vote in August. It was just trying to, here's the fastest that we could move. One of the things that I wanted to point out is some of these things are set up, some of the phases were shrunk or accelerated to hit board dates. So yes, everything would move back 1 month, but there's likely a little bit of play in there in order to hit those board meeting dates. It may not be a direct one-to-one. It may be able to move faster if there's a phase that can be shrunk, or slower if we have to delay to hit a board meeting. With that in mind, was there any questions on schedule? Because this was the part that we really wanted to talk through with you. And I can verbalize anything on the screen. I know it's small.
I'm gonna turn this up.
This might not be a question for you, but maybe for Gina. Could we speed any of this up by not waiting for board meetings, by handling some of this through email or something like that?
I don't know. I mean, I guess we could, and then we would have to ratify the vote.
It's kind of one of those things that you really need to see. The board needs to see the presentation for each phase at the time. I don't know that it would speed it up much to do that.
There's really not a whole lot of time that we get pulled out from our side. We're trying to set up the schedule so that the cost estimates hit the board meeting dates. Taking those board meeting dates out, you would still have, you gain a couple weeks, but I don't know that it's significant, if that makes a difference.
Yeah.
Okay, I just didn't want you guys, us being the holdup.
No, the tweaks to hit board meetings is weeks, not months.
Okay.
And I think that there's more value in us adding a few weeks so that you all can take a step back and make a decision,
right,
rather than speeding it up and leaving you behind in the process.
Right.
Yep.
The other is that some of the, like the bidding and award and the construction manager interviews, I don't know necessarily Barry Lawrence's policies, but those typically require board meetings and votes to ratify, hire on people, those kind of dollar amounts.
Yeah.
Yeah, you always do.
The good thing is too, with Zoom, we're able to, even if we were back face to face, we could still have a quick Zoom meeting as long as we post it 24 hours in advance.
Yeah. We've had to become pretty good at presenting design ideas digitally, so that's not a big lift.
Absolutely no idea.
I would say the only other thing that would make a difference, let's say worst case scenario, we don't select until November, December this year. At that point, beginning of construction starts to land in the winter 2021 or first quarter of 2022. That is the worst time to be doing site work and digging because of weather. And you end up adding a bunch of time to construction, even though the building is the exact same. So if we, there's nothing wrong with it, it's just, we would need to anticipate that the construction timeline goes out further than 2022, possibly 2023. That's the only big one that we tend to, well, that and deer hunting season, but that's a little bit.
Yeah. That gives us enough time to start the capital campaign as well.
Gotta
Get
do,
going.
gotta do fundraising on this.
Are there any scenarios on timelines or other things that we could talk? We're just taking the previous approach and the previous schedule and updating it. If there's any other thoughts or strategies or questions you had on, you know, how to accelerate that, we're open to those things. It's always better to talk about them now.
When would we be ready to do a groundbreaking?
You would probably be looking with the groundbreak based on August. It would be groundbreaking in June. So there would be that ceremony in June because you'd have awarded the contractor on the 17th. We've got kind of a little bit of a grace period between that selection and construction start. And that period would be perfect. That would be a really fast sprint from board meeting to groundbreaking in June, but it's possible.
Okay, I just kind of want to have a target date for when we might plan that. At least it'd be good weather.
Yeah.
Wouldn't be breaking
Hopefully.
ground and although the way things are going, it's probably gonna be hot anyway.
Oh, I should have said this. So the other thing to keep in mind is that Paragon really only has control of the schedule until June 2021. After that, the contractor or the construction manager takes over and they really own how things move. So we're estimating 12 months construction. They could come back and say 10 or 15. So we're giving it an educated guess, but they would truly be the ones to answer that question. They would likely be able to answer that question in October, November this year, based on what we've already designed. And they just say, oh, well, okay, based on that timeline, we think it's about this. They would update it as they go, but that would be the time we'd find out how long construction would be, or at least the first.
Honestly, we've been waiting this long. I don't want to rush through it either. I want to be able to make sure everything's perfect.
Sure.
And won't the timeline also be dependent on whether the board decides to do option A or B?
On construction timeline, yes. On everything bidding and before, not so much, just because it's not, yeah, there's more work and more documents, but I don't know that the design team could move any faster because the building was smaller. There's a chance that we could knock a few weeks off, but I don't know that it's not going to be terribly significant.
Okay, I was just thinking as far as construction goes.
Oh yeah, absolute construction would move faster for sure.
Yeah, I knew the rest of it wouldn't, but just construction itself, because the building would be a third smaller.
Yeah, and that all depends on financing and what happens to this COVID situation.
Yeah. Yeah, what if we had another shutdown? That's going to push everything back again, right?
So we've experienced that on other projects and other construction. Some of the weirdest things to be impacted were flooring. All of the manufacturing plants are Mexico or Europe. So lots of flooring has been delayed. Steel's another one that honestly, it was already fluctuating pretty hard before COVID. Now it's even less. It changes. Yeah, it changes daily at this point. Those would be the two big ones. What?
Bleachers.
Really? Bleachers?
Yes,
Oh my
bleachers.
gosh. Okay. So there's a new one. But it just, very strange things have been happening with COVID. There are things that have not been impacted that we thought would, and there have been strange things that pop up and we go, okay, well, based on manufacturing overseas or out of country, yeah, that makes sense.
I heard today there's an aluminum problem. They're not being able to keep up with the number of people who are drinking at home now. So, because people aren't going out to
Sure.
eat and to drink as much, the aluminum cans are in short supply. So they're having trouble keeping up with the bottling. That's why you're seeing some of the drinks, like somebody the other day said Fresca, for example, they don't have enough cans to.
Well, isn't that a shame?
So it's a weird version of the toilet paper shortage.
Yeah, absolutely. So,
But you gotta stay home. And you
So-
can't get rid of it.
yeah,
Anything else on yeah, COVID will absolutely have an impact. We won't be able to anticipate it. Hopefully in 2021, we'll be able to have a better handle on it as people have figured out what happens during a shutdown, and because
Yeah.
it's evening for the 4th or 5th or however many times, they'll know relatively what's going to happen, but there will be something that will pop up completely unexpected or uncontrollable. Honestly, we closed our office for 2-3 months and everybody worked from home.
Right.
And we still moved forward. Work was still progressing as far as the design team, but it was slower because things just didn't happen as quickly as you can when everybody's in an office, or it just didn't happen like that.
Okay.
Anything else? I want to make sure we talk through schedule before I jump into the cost estimate.
I don't even know what to ask. I mean, it
Okay.
looks good to me, not having ever been through anything but a house project. And even then I was a kid, so.
I guess the big thing would be that, so Paragon can help with the construction management qualification process, but it would still be the library running that. That would probably be the biggest time commitment from the library in terms of you've got to be doing something to go out to the public, answer questions, all those things. We can help, we can answer questions, we can be another face, another voice, but it's that would still be the library doing that in September.
And you would help us with the qualification list or whatever. I'd have to go, I can't remember.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Like we did
exactly.
when we hired you all, we put out a, whatever it's called.
Mhm.
Yeah, it's either
For
an
qualifi-
RFQ,
Yeah.
yeah.
The request
for
for,
qualifications or proposal, one's dollars, one's here's what we're good at.
Okay.
For construction manager, request for qualifications is relevant because we could set it up that they're giving you a bid that's percentage of construction as overhead and profit, I think, or just profit. That's a way to do a request for proposal. Typically for construction managers, we do requests for qualifications because that bringing them on board, we have more control of the costs anyway. So it's not as critical that competitive bidding is the end all be all. Okay.
Well, it's like a mix.
Yeah.
You hire them, the initial request is for qualification. You go through the interview process just like you would for us or for any other professional service. And then after the qualifications, then you request proposals from a select few. So it's kind of a mixture-based selection, but the qualifications is the first qualifier, I guess.
So with that in mind, that process, that would probably extend this out.
No, that's about right.
Okay, all right.
Yeah.
okay, so we're looking at the board makes a decision August. Then in September, we put out the RFQ, and then we, at the October meeting or at a special meeting in October, which we could do, we actually interview construction managers and then make a selection.
Right.
Yeah, you can manage to do both of those in one board meeting. It will take hours, but it can happen all in one board meeting.
Okay.
Okay, my question is, what are we waiting for August for?
So yeah, that part was more about option A, option B. Back in, oh man, the last 3-4 months, Gina, Joyce, and Paragon have been talking about, well, let's wait until taxes and funding gets nailed down. Let's wait for the vote to get nailed down. So there was a whole lot of uncertainty on whether we were going option A or option B. For us, we wanted to make sure that we weren't pushing you guys to make a quick decision and jump the wrong way based on funding, especially because fundraising is going to be a part of this. If there's a strong feeling one way or the other, last bit, I talked with Brad Irwin yesterday. He's our principal architect. If you guys selected option A, let's say you selected it today, for some, we somehow make that happen. Paragon won't be able to really start on the project until October. So moving design development up doesn't really, it'll gain you a couple weeks. It wouldn't gain you a whole month.
Okay.
Okay.
Yeah. Any other, those are all great questions, people. This is disappointing. Okay, well, let me go to the cost estimate. The first that I wanted to show you was what we presented in January. What we were looking at for option A, the whole building, was 7.9. We had undershot our program, so we were really efficient on the building design. This was based on the most recent data on 2020 because our cost estimating software isn't out in 2021 and 2022. The reason I wanted to show this is that the costs from January to July of 2021 have increased by $200,000. So the design team has changed absolutely nothing since January, and the cost increased by $200,000. So I think it was Julie was asking, why not? Let's wait and make sure we absolutely nail it and get it right. The only pressure as far as timeline that I would see is that construction costs only go up. The longer we wait, the more the exact same project costs more money. And then the last piece is COVID has done weird things to bidding, and our faith in cost estimates and people that say they know what's going on is less and less. This could be way high and everything, like something miraculous happens and everybody's just dying for work 2021, that would be great. But steel, I think, would still be weird, and this is a steel building.
That was plan A, right?
Correct. So plan B, like previous meetings, we didn't have in the presentation. Back in January, it was 4.64 million. And then now that same price, and this isn't 200,000, it's greater. It's now 5.17 million. Again, the design team has changed nothing in the design, and that's just the market changing. That was the only point we wanted to make on time, is the longer that we wait to move on the library, the more expensive the project will get.
Okay. Well, that makes sense. That would be the case regardless of COVID, right?
Correct. Yeah. And COVID has done some weird things to prices where it's made things cheaper as well, but it's not predictable. They're weird things. They're not. You can't strategically try and pick, oh, well, COVID's gonna help us there. It just kind of shows up as helping you or hurting you.
You're still right around 8 million no matter what.
But Well, and honestly, in the discussions with Gina and Joyce, this is why we thought the waiting for the August board meeting was the right way to go, because talking through this information, the costs, the dollars, that's budgeting, all of those things, that's really the work on this decision is how confident are you in the funds showing up at the right time and moving forward at any particular time. Again, there's no pressure from the design team. It's more just the market. The market's going to push us.
We
I
will
built a
have, sorry, Gina.
2008. I built a house in 2008 with an estimate of $140,000. And by the time we were done in August, it was 260,000. So I understand.
Right. And that was probably in the middle of the crash when costs were going down, right?
No, everything went up.
Oh, geez.
My house is made of a petroleum product, concrete and steel. And all of them just went nuts.
Well, and that's the piece is when there's oil shortages, embargoes on China and steel, all the chaos that went on with the EU within the last few years, there were weird prices that showed up unexpectedly.
Yeah.
And you can't anticipate it. We can do our best to use models and estimate with as much information and forethought as we can, but we ultimately can't control it.
The other thing with that is, and we're assuming that you do move forward with the construction management delivery approach, but hiring the construction manager early on in the process, like we've suggested, will help us keep a good pulse on those costs, because they are in the mud on those costs daily. So again, I will reiterate how important it'll be for us to have cost estimates at board meetings to review to make sure that we're still on the right track the entire way.
Okay.
Also means we need to hire a good construction manager that has good cost estimating.
Absolutely.
And can you guide us that
But
way
we also
too?
have you.
We can politically correctly
Right.
try to guide you that way.
Sure. Sure.
What was the
Okay.
question?
We can make recommendations.
What was that question, Julie? I missed it.
If they can guide us the right direction on the right project manager,
Oh, okay, gotcha.
give us a suggested list.
Yeah, we want to make sure that we advertise that in the right location.
Well, we've never, in all the building projects that since I've been here, we've never had a construction manager. We ended up with a construction project manager, and all the rest of it was left up pretty much to us. And I can tell you right now that we're not talking anything like what this building's going to cost, but it got to be very complicated at times, because unless you have somebody that's experienced in what they're doing, it can be very, very costly for the owner to have to figure these things out for themselves. So I think a good construction manager would make this project so much easier.
Yeah, they keep everybody on track and don't let us get, taken advantage of.
Yep.
So, yeah,
That's what we talked about.
Yep.
absolutely.
Okay. Was there anything else on the Monet Library that you guys want to talk through? Schedule, cost, timeline, anything you need from us? Is there anything we can do between now and August, September?
Will you be sending us a copy of that timeline?
I absolutely can. Yeah, we can.
Big
I
enough
took
that
a
we
picture of it with my phone. I took a picture of the screen with my phone.
That's a good idea.
I couldn't read it.
We'll make sure to get
I'm
that.
like
to you.
zooming in with my eyes.
Yeah, I took a picture with my phone. So there you go.
I apologize. I can't zoom in on PowerPoint. I wished I could have. It didn't work out as cleanly as I hoped.
Can you email that to all the board members or just email it to me and I'll send it out?
I'll send it out. I don't know that I have all the board members' emails, but we can get it to you today.
It should be in that email when I sent the Zoom invitation. Yeah.
We'll get it out. Yeah,
Thank you.
yeah, absolutely. Anything else before I jump to the master plan? Because it's kind of a topic switch.
No, go ahead.
Okay. So Paragon and Gina and Joyce have been working through a master plan proposal. The idea, and Gina and Joyce, feel free to stop me at any time and correct anything we're saying. The idea was that you've got a levy passed. There are funds for the library that the public wants to see used for all of the facilities. And here is a way that Paragon can help lay out a plan for where, when, and how much gets spent at each one of those facilities so that the tax levy doesn't pass, the Monet library goes in, and then the public just sees that only Monet went in. This is about, here's what the library district wants to do for everyone. We've provided a proposal of $42,000 for that work. What we would be doing is coming up with a prototype library design for Aurora, Shell Knob, and Mount Vernon. We would be looking at interior renovations for Cassville, Eagle Rock, Marionville, and Pierce City. And then there's an interesting idea with the Miller branch where we take the existing facility and renovate it into an unstaffed commuter library and reading center. The closest example that I can think of is an Amazon delivery location. So you would come up, grab your book out of a locker, and you'd have a place to read. The main deliverables from Paragon would be cost estimating for that work. So we would design it with the library district, come up with cost estimates, and then help in ordering that in time as far as here's when the Monet library branch is going on. Here's where each of these other renovations or new facilities is going on. A big one and a big part of that cost is Paragon traveling to each one of the current facilities, seeing the needs, talking to the folks at those library branches, and figuring out what's needed in the future. We would attend one board meeting at the end to present that master plan. And then as far as a physical deliverable, we'd be turning over a binder. And I know that may sound a little weird that it would be a binder instead of a nice bound book. We've found from previous clients that a binder allows you to take out pages, put in pages, add information, and the master plan can live on beyond this process. And it's not, you don't have to pay somebody to come back and do another master plan, you just update it as you go. And then lastly, we have a digital copy of all of that information. We wanted to present this to the board and get your feedback on, is this something that you would like to see, and will this help in getting the public to understand what the library district is spending on? Did I summarize that right, Gina and Joyce?
Yeah, we actually went to Paragon and asked, I think I talked about this at the last board meeting, that we really need to have an overall overarching plan. We'll put a little bit of a timeline with it, but of course the timeline would be dependent on funding as well. And the idea would be that we would do a big project and then we'd do a small project at the same time. So it may be, we'll do Monet and we'll, let's say we'll
Work on Eagle Rock.
Work on Eagle Rock and paint and get some additional shelving for them, so that there's a couple of projects that go on at the same time, one that's more costly and one that's really not as expensive. And that way we try to do one in each county, or if we can, sometimes that might not work out. And then eventually over maybe a 10-year period of time, every branch has been renovated, updated, or whatever. And then we start the next round of, if we get to a point where all the buildings are in really good shape, all we're needing to do is paint and maintain. But at least we have a plan for that instead of the Band-Aid approach that we've had to do because of our funding. So that's kind of where we're coming to Paragon and saying, how do we, I mean, Joyce and I obviously could sit down and make a list and, come up with some kind of timeline, but it's not going to be as effective as, what's a realistic expectation. So, and we picked, Aurora obviously has been a, yeah, I was trying to be nice. And either we're going to have to completely gut the building and start from scratch, or we're going to need to relocate it because we're spending way too much money on that building that we don't need to be spending. And Mount Vernon has to be expanded. They are just absolutely busting at the seams. That their meeting room is so inadequate for the type of programs that they're doing. It's not even funny. And then of course we got to do something about Shell Knob. Either we ditch the whole new building idea and just renovate what's there, but it's got to be redone. The rest of the buildings are in pretty good shape. I mean, Cassville, Marionville, Pierce City are all newer, but Cassville needs some additional meeting room space. Their meeting room's very, very nice, but we actually need at least we need to enlarge it so that we can maybe have 2 meetings going on at a time. We have some study rooms, that sort of thing. So, and then Marionville and Pierce City, they just need overall maintenance. We need paint and carpeting. And Eagle Rock, obviously we don't own the building, but we do need to put some money into replacing the wood shelving and that sort of thing. The idea with Miller is that because it's not our most used branch, obviously, that we had an idea that rather than take the branch away, that what we would do is not staff it. We would put in a book locker system where people could retrieve new materials that they've requested and return their items, and then have a seating area where they could come in and use their personal laptops or devices, and you would have a code to get in and out of the building based on your library card or swiping or whatever we come up with. So it's so quiet.
We're thinking.
There's a lot to take in.
Sure.
Yeah.
And it's, I'm sorry.
He said that a lot of the cost would be legwork going from branch to branch.
Right.
Could some of that be reduced if we had employees do some of that legwork? Or it sounds like you already know a lot of the things that need to be done, like paint, flooring, the things you just mentioned to us. So is that something that we could save some money? Or is it better to have a different set of eyes to look at those? Because maybe we just are fixed in what we think needs to happen.
You've answered the question exactly how we would. We absolutely can reduce the fees and not travel to all those locations, but then it's not us seeing opportunities that the library might not, or seeing problems. Let's use roofing as an example. We take a look at the facility and we say, okay, you're warranted up to a certain time, and you're not necessarily thinking about roofing as a need, but it's going to time out in about 5 years. You're going to want a budget for that roof replacement, or the things that aren't necessarily visible all the time. Those are the things that us coming to the facility and seeing would really help with. There's nothing to say that has to happen. We just find that that's more productive or effective, or it's something that's of value to our master plan clients.
Yes, yeah, something like Eagle Rock, there is no question about changing the building. We don't own the building. So with that, I think it would be fairly simple for Gina and I to decide what we need to do and how to do it. It's mostly going to be furnishing and, you know, location of the furnishing in the building.
We could take them out of the
Yeah, I
equation
mean, they could come
entirely.
out of it all together because there's nothing we would do structurally to that building because we don't own the building. But that's, you know, probably one of the only ones that, you know, because we look at it in, you know, we're not necessarily proactive, we're reactive to these branches because we've had to be. You know, you only react to a problem once the problem's there. Whereas we should be looking at it proactively and saying, this is going to be a problem in 3 years. What do we do about it now? And that's probably where Paragon could be a big help, because we're also kind of looking at it from a, you know, prejudicial thing too. We know what circulation is. We know the buildings, that sort of thing. We need somebody that looks at it and says, this is what you could do. This is what in the future you could do with this building. We've always looked at it like, what do we have to do to keep it open? And I think we've kind of reached that point where we've got to move past that. But it's kind of hard sometimes for us. It's really hard for me because I'm cheap. And I just really, you know, I only look at it like we got to keep the buildings open, but I'm not necessarily looking at any whistles and bells for that building. They would be looking at that and saying, this is what you could do. So for me, that's the whole purpose of that is, but I think that we could probably cut at least a couple. Miller would be another one. Necessarily, you wouldn't structurally change Miller. You would simply change the way the building was used and the furnishings in the building. So there's 2 of them right there. And we don't know what's going to happen with Shell Knob because we have to decide whether or not we're going to continue with this project or we're going to, you know, we're going to take a step back and say, we're going to look at the building we've got and what can we do with it.
A couple of things I'll throw out to that. There's nothing that says this needs to be all of these projects. If there are things to be removed, we are all for it. We're not going to mandate a particular approach to this or say we're not going to do that. It's more about what does the library need and what can we help with?
Yeah. What could it be as opposed to what it is? Yeah.
Any other questions? Go ahead.
The other thing I'll throw out is that we're going to be working collaboratively with the library. It's not about Paragon just coming in and saying, well, this needs to be done, this needs to be done. It's here are the opportunities. Do you want this included in the master plan? Do you want something addressed with that? It's master plan. Honestly, I think master plans have changed since when I was taught them back in the 90s and early 2000s. And it's not the same kind of thing anymore. They don't last long enough. They've got to live on, they've got to change, they've got to adapt over time instead of the nice, pretty book that they used to be.
And this is a new venture for us. We've never hired a firm to consult for anything. So that I'm aware of. So
we've always had to be reactive. We've never been able to be proactive.
Ow. So what, it's probably not going to change the cost dramatically, but if we took Eagle Rock out of it.
In conversations earlier this week, we're saying, just let us know what scope you want to change. We'll go back. I can't make that decision. It has to be Brad.
Okay.
But we can, Jessica and I have worked on the hours we present to Brad, and Brad says, okay, that's go, or here's what we want to do with the number. Pulling out Miller and, was it Miller and Marionville?
No, Miller and Eagle Rock.
Miller and Eagle Rock. We'll pull those out and re-present to Brad and see what number can be put together. This timeline, as far as this work, it's the same kind of message as far as starting on the Monett branch. Paragon can't really move on this until October. Okay. Our workload at the moment doesn't really allow us to move. And the timeline on this is not, there's nothing to hit from Paragon's side. It was more about at least hearing from Gina and Joyce, having the message to communicate to the public that other things were happening instead of just the moment.
Okay.
Yep.
Okay, thank you.
Can you give us an estimate for if we only take out Eagle Rock and then one that includes leaving Miller in? I mean, then one
Gina?
that takes out both Eagle Rock and Miller, sorry.
Gina,
Uh-huh.
I think it's important that we keep those in. Yeah, they might not need as much work, but they still might see something that can be done differently that we're not looking at. And it also lets everyone know that they're included in our master plan, not just an extra thing that we may think about.
I'm okay with it either way.
But that's just my thought.
Alex, is this estimate based on hours that you will be working on the project, or is it based on locations and all of that?
Purely based on hours. We don't, Jessica and I spent a bunch of time coming up with the hours, presented to Brad, tweaked it, and then he said, here's the dollar figure associated with that hours.
Okay. So really removing a project, I mean, we could just spend less time on Miller and Eagle Rock, you know, maybe take pictures and you view pictures instead of taking the time to drive there, but still you could give us benefits to just seeing what it looks like.
I would say we'll want to, yes, that's possible. I would say we want to work with the district and have, it may be more work from the library side as far as going to those things and taking pictures and looking at things that you wouldn't necessarily look at, or digging through documents on roofing or other warranties.
Building plans for Miller?
That may be something that the library wants to do anyway on all of them, so that we've got a similar looking deliverable for all of the branches at the end. And that's part of this, is that there's meeting times and other things with Gina and Joyce in the library on tweaking this to what you want to see. We don't really have a hard idea of what that deliverable is. We have a platform for it that will hold all the information that all of us come up with over this process.
I'm kind of with Gina. Unless there is a huge difference, I think it would be nice, as long as we're doing it, just let them look at all of them personally, unless it was a really significant price difference.
Can you all hear me now?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay, well, we've had a problem with it. I think we got it straightened out. I just wanted to say, I think it's very important as we move forward that we show the taxpayers of Berry and Lawrence County that we didn't pass this levy increase only for Monette's benefit. I think we should be doing, like we've been talking, another small project at the same time that demonstrate that we're going to do more than just Monette.
Oh, yeah.
The benefit, one of the benefits of this concept from a communication standpoint was that we could not just say we're including all the branches, we could really be including all the branches in this. If we start to say, how can we possibly cut certain branches out of this process from a communications plan standpoint, it puts me in a place where I'm going to have to say, well, not actually all the branches, just, you know, a lot of the branches, but not all, which isn't as very, that's not a very strong statement from the library standpoint. As you can hear me saying it, it's a lot different than what I say. We included all the branches, or we just included, you know, some branches. That's a big difference in as far as communication goes.
That is, yeah.
Of course, the master plan would include all the branches. We would just have, we would be doing the legwork for the other two. I mean, we would still write them in with, hey, we're going to be doing this. It would just be taking them out. And I'm not necessarily in favor of that. I'm just trying to figure out cost wise, you know, if the legwork is going to be the cost factor, if we can limit some of that, you know, it might be beneficial, but we still would have a master plan for all of the branches.
What I would throw out is that that probably wouldn't have a huge impact on that number, just because, so we mapped out, this reflects 2 people's time over 2 days traveling to every single location. So if you took out 2 of those locations, you're only going to save a couple hours for 2 people. And I don't know that that's going to be a huge swing in the number. It will impact it and it would make a difference. I just don't know how much of a difference it's going to make. And again, we can absolutely put that number together and get it back to you. We just don't, one of the things we told Gina and Joyce earlier this week is, here's the, from what they've communicated and what we've coordinated with them, this fits the most. If there's something that you don't want to see, we can absolutely pull it out. But it was more about, Paragon didn't want to mandate, oh, well, that's not necessary or that's not important. It's what does the library district want?
Anybody? So do you want him to go ahead and get that estimate, or do you want to go ahead? I mean, you would have to vote on whether we do this or not before the contract could be signed. Right. Mm-hmm.
You know, if it's not going to make that big of a difference in the total, I don't think there's any point in having a change in the estimate for a couple of hours.
Okay, so you want a motion to approve the contract, to sign the contract?
I'm sorry, Joyce, I couldn't hear you.
Do you want to, do we need a, are you all at a point where we could have a motion? Or do you want to, I mean, they're not going to be able to start the work until October anyway. If you want to think about it, we could do it at the August meeting. It's really up to you.
Could the couple of hours save us more than $10,000? I mean, because
that's what Jessica and I, we muted really quick and compared our thoughts. The magnitude would probably be between $1,000 and $2,000. It's not,
okay.
It's not.
So it's not really worth.
Not worth.
Yeah.
That was a good question, Katie.
Yeah, no, it's, and that's what we want. We don't want to deliver and charge you for anything you don't want. That's not, it's not beneficial to anybody.
Katie, let me also say that the hours that Alex and I budgeted for this, I'm gonna probably eat my words when I say this, but say we budgeted 100 hours. I don't remember what that number was, but let's just say it was 100 hours. And we end up spending 150. We're not gonna come back and say, sorry, we need another $5,000 out of you. This is a fixed fee. So even though when we say we prepared it based on hours, we're not charging you based on hours. It is a fixed fee and this is how much it is. Does that make sense?
Right.
Yes.
I just want to make sure that that's understood as well.
Yeah, it's based on the scope. So if the scope stays the same, the dollar figure stays the same.
Yeah, so basically, if you're doing 7 branches or 9, it doesn't really matter.
It's not going to be significant. Let's put it that way.
Right.
Well, and I like that we include everybody.
Yeah.
I think so. We need to include everybody.
And they can still see things that we haven't seen and bring them up. So do we want to take a vote today or do we want to hold this off till August? What's your thoughts, people?
Well, there's no real benefit in waiting if we're just going to approve it next month. You know, they
And
could go ahead.
it's
They could
fresh in our minds now, so I think, you know, we can make our
Yeah.
best decision.
Need a motion to approve the contract with Paragon for the long-range plan.
I make a motion to approve.
I second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. I think we need to release the PowerPoint presentations.
Yep, there we go.
Okay, thank you. Now say aye.
Aye,
Raise
hold
your
up.
hand if you.
Aye.
Jan, we can't see you.
Jen went dead.
Yep,
There we go.
Go.
everybody, unanimous.
Motion unanimous.
And I can sign this, right? Yeah. Oh, okay.
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 Thank you, Paragon.
Thank you very
Thank you,
much.
guys. We appreciate it.
If there's
Thank
anything
you.
else you want to ask us or email us, all those things, we're here.
Okay,
Thank
I'll
you.
get it signed today and sent over to you.
And I'll get the schedule out by email.
Okay.
Have a good one, guys.
All right, you
Thank
too.
you.
Thank you.
Greg, I wanted to say thank you for all your hard work on getting our tax levy passed. We appreciate it.
Yeah, thank you. That's right. I haven't met you guys since we passed it. Me and Gina I sent Gina a picture of me doing a happy dance on the election night.
It was sad. I wouldn't share it with anybody.
Thank you. Thank you. I was overtaken by emotion. So
I was
Okay.
just on the phone back and forth. Gina, Joyce, blah, blah, blah. Yeah, so, okay.
Well,
Okay.
you
Minutes of-
did a great job. I don't recall that Berry County has ever supported a levy increase in the past, but they did this time.
yeah,
It-
some
that's
of the
just the-
biggest districts with the biggest approval was Berry County's,
Yes.
Cassville and
So
Roy
we
River area.
appreciate it.
Yeah, it was a lot of work. It was a lot of stuff that everybody did. You know, everybody got behind it, and everybody did, work together. And you know, I would have to say, just totally honest, I like to joke around and not be too serious, but I have to admit that I have to say that being a part of that whole thing and getting it passed was probably the high point of my professional career. So
Yay, good.
it was a big deal for me. So I was privileged to be a part of it.
Thank you.
Mhm.
Minutes from the June meetings. Everyone read them?
Mhm.
Any corrections? Then I need a motion to approve the minutes from June.
I so
Katie?
move.
And Wendy? All in favor?
Aye.
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 We're
Motion
getting
carried.
good at hand motions.
Financial report.
Okay, so for this, of course, closes out the month of June. So we had $40,000 in income. What was the, what was the miscellaneous? Was that, it was 14,000. Was that the LSTA?
Yeah.
Funds? Okay. You can see we collected about $22,000 in delinquent tax. So that was our big item for the month. And so year to date, at the end of June, we have collected 1.9 million compared to last year at 1.8. But remember, $100,000 of that was money we put into Monette and Shell Knobs building projects. So that means that we were almost even Steven with last year. And then in expenditures, we had $170,000. And so that's about average we average between 150 and 200, depending on what's going on for the month. We still have some big things that are outstanding that we're going to have to come up with funds for, which are
The rest of Mount Vernon's roof,
right, the rest of the, yeah.
heating and air conditioning, I mean, the air conditioning unit at Pierce City, and the units that'll be installed this fall at Aurora.
So we're still going to run pretty tight through the end of the year. I did talk to Paragon about when we would have to pay that $42,000 just in case. And so it sounds like from the billing and the time that they start and all that, it probably wouldn't be until the next calendar year anyway. So yay on that. So that we don't have to cash any CDs if we don't have to until it's time to cash those. Right now in our checking account, we have just a little under $1 million at $938,518. As compared to last year, we're about $1 million behind. I mean, 100,000 behind, and then about 300,000 behind June of 2018. We've just had a lot of expenses from putting on roofs and air conditioning units, and that's part of why we wanted this help from Paragon, because we get caught with our pants down a lot, and it's always been financial for us because of it. So we just need to make sure we're in good shape. So unless you have some questions, it's been pretty much just business as usual.
Okay. Need a motion to approve the financial report, please.
So moved.
Charles?
Second.
Is Jan. All in favor?
Aye.
Motion carried. And circulation stats.
Okay, so I've been trying to note, and you were sent a corrected copy. I had messed up with Aurora's days open. I forgot they're not open Saturdays right now, so I calculated too many days and it changed things for them. But we opened the doors to the public on June 1st. And so this was our first full month of service since we closed in March. So our numbers aren't awful. I mean, we're at 16,000. Remember, our circulation's been wacky anyway since we went with Evergreen. So I feel pretty good about 16,000 items when we're open a limited number of hours, and people are still kind of not sure about coming in and using the library as much. So that's a daily average of 764 checkouts. We're still averaging about 2,000 new customers over this time last year. That's pretty much an average for us. We're still seeing an increase in usage in our e-material. So you can see we're up from this time last year with MoLib to Go, and we're up significantly with Hoopla. So far, so good with, we've left it at the 10 items that can be checked out, and we increased our limit a little bit, and I'm actually seeing those numbers come down a little bit. So I think we should just leave it for now and see how things go. And if it gets to where we need to lower those checkouts, we will. But right now, I think we're okay. So I'm real pleased with that. Obviously, we have way fewer people using the computers. Of course, we also have fewer computers that we have in service because of social distancing. So that is directly impacted our usage. And then we've had, with curbside, we had 53 curbside requests and 55 deliveries. So that's pretty good. And then in June, I've now extended your page to 8.5 by 14 so I could fit everything in. I don't know what to say about these numbers because this is new to us. I don't even know if we're counting things correctly. I just told the branches what to do. And so I just put in what they send me because I don't know, but it looks like we did 44 virtual programs. We had over 4,000 people view those programs. So we do have a handful of branches that are doing outside only. And I sent an email out and reminded them that they must be wearing their masks even outside, that we would encourage customers to wear the mask, although outside it's much harder to mandate that, but they had to socially distance. And if I found out they were not wearing their mask and they weren't socially distancing, we were going to stop. So family groups can sit together, but you know, a lot of places aren't even allowing that. But we still, even though we have an increase in cases, we're still lower than most areas in the state. So, and most of those have been, some of them have been exercise programs with adults. And so I don't think there's as much issue. Kids have a harder time with that whole social distance thing, but they're getting with the program. So it'll be a new norm for them, I guess. So we're just doing what we need to do. And I'm pretty pleased with the branches overall. Well, I'm pleased with the branches, period, that they're trying to pick up and do what they can. The school year is kind of, I just don't know what to say because we don't know what's going to happen with the schools and how that's going to impact us. And this time, usually at this time of the year, we're putting together the story time hours, information, and that's all kind of in limbo. I told the branches to plan on virtual programming through the end of the year because I just don't see how we're going to be able to open the meeting rooms up at this point. So, and then today on the news, they're talking about air conditioning and air quality and the droplets and the blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, great, you know, one more thing to worry about. So, and then of course the branch activity reports finally back to normal length. Lots of interesting things going on. So a lot of branches are doing make and take craft bags, and some of our summer reading programs are going to be virtual. Then we should have information. Aren't you filming Henno Head and oh, what's the storyteller, right? Yep. And the Lego woman.
Yeah,
Oh, it's the Lego woman and Henno Head. That's what it is.
yeah. I think we have 3 next
Okay.
week that we're doing, and also we've done we beefed up the video capabilities at Cassville's location. They've got backdrop now. They've got a high def camera, and they've got a microphone. The sound quality is a real big issue, and so now they have a wireless microphone so they can really be heard for their story times. Those are kind of some improvements we've been making.
Yeah, that equipment came from the CARES Act grant that we applied for, and Greg went and installed everything Tuesday. And so we'll have 2 locations where we can do more professional virtual programs. It'll be here and at Cassville. So
I may have asked this before, Gina, but do the branches see everything that we see? Do they see that everybody else's activities and all those statistics compared and all of that?
Yeah.
Like we do? Good.
yeah, we send the statistics. We don't send out the financial report, but we send out the statistics to everybody. And yeah, let me tell you, that's how I knew that I messed up Aurora. Because Martha called and said, I wasn't open 26 days. I was open 22 days. And that made my daily numbers look bad. So I was like, and I think Jana caught that on one of them, I put down January instead of June. It's because I have a template that I use. So I think most of the time I get it fixed, but they were both J months. So what,
They let you know if they find a problem.
Yeah, which is good. It keeps me on my toes. Cheryl keeps me on my toes, I'm telling you.
What is Aurora doing that they're getting so many Facebook views?
I don't know if it's how they count it. I don't know. I think they're posting a lot though. So
Yeah, I think Leanne over there, puts quite a bit on Facebook, that anything that has to do with their library. So I think that has a lot to do with it too. And a lot of people evidently in Aurora actually use Facebook quite a bit. So
Some
there-
branches are using Facebook for their videos. And so then that will probably make their Facebook programs much higher. I know that just because I was there, Cassville said that they got about half their programs on Facebook, half of them on Google. Maybe Aurora is probably you just exclusively using Facebook for video would be my guess.
The other thing I want to point out is the hoopla. I sent you the yearly report that they sent me, and that's pretty stunning when you look at how many circulations we get and who's using it and when. And that we registered 595 new patrons in this last fiscal year. That's pretty amazing. So that tells me that that's money well spent, that we're really getting value from it. There's not anything that's particularly new. I mean, it pretty much solidifies that people really like having audio.
Yeah.
So, and this is a good thing because you can have multiple simultaneous users. So, we're not keeping a book from somebody for 8 months because we could only buy one copy of it. So I love that. So
is there a way that we could share more of what the library is doing, like the branches that do the really good programs? Is there a way that we could share those on Facebook?
oh, Greg.
Greg,
Yeah, sure. The one of the challenges is knowing when they do them. Like knowing when the some of the story times and things are not copyright for sharing openly,
right.
so they have to do them closed. So they have like what a lot of branches are doing is they are making unlisted YouTube videos and then controlling who is able to see them by only sending them out to the links of the people that are enrolled in the program. And the reason why that is for copyright issues, is because authors do not want their books to be free on the internet for obvious reasons. So there's sort of like when we could do that, if they knew for sure that it was copyright allowed, we definitely would post it. We have a few of them that have allowed us to. The Fish and Magician post, one of the storytellers, he allowed us to do it, and so those were the ones that went on. So when I get told that there's one that we're allowed to do, I'll put it on, but a lot of them are not allowed to be public for copyright issues.
That is a good point. The copyright, this is something new that we're all trying to navigate and follow the rules, because we don't want to get stung and have to pay a fine, and we want the authors to get their revenue from their work, their creative work. So we got to follow the rules. That's a good point.
May I interject?
Yeah, go ahead.
I was just going to share too, if you individually would like, I didn't hear your whole
Oh, there's
comment, Miss Julie, because I was working with a customer, but if you want us to hear some of the other branches ones and everything, do look up on some of their Facebooks as well, because I know they are individually, some of them putting on there. Most of us are trying to send them to Greg as well, or put them on there when we can, like he stated. But we are very excited that these main links that we got with the IMLS grant that Greg was talking about of Fish and Magicians. We have Michael Anderson, the Dulcimer guy. Then
That's right.
Greg and Leanne are going to help us. On Tuesday, we have 2 of our special speakers that's going to be here at the, just to give you an update of what's going on with programming, at the Marionville branch. And Greg is going to record them with a new green screen and everything we've got here, and then he'll work on the link. And so we're going to have 2 more of those grant performers. One is Hino Head Jr., which everyone really enjoys his presentations and the fun and excitement he brings to the students and families. And then the other is Miss Kara Fletcher. And so we're very excited about her being able to do that. And she's going to do her Lego presentation and do something special with that to go along with the theme as well. And I'm very excited what she's been putting together. Then we have a third one that we're waiting on that we should get this afternoon or first thing Monday. And that is another storyteller. So you're going to have well put together professional program video links that please share with all your friends. The librarians have all been sharing them with the schools, the daycares, the parks programs that are still in session, YMCA. And so these are getting out there. And so like just yesterday, we were at the Monette branch, and I just talked to Amber about an hour ago, and some of those teachers that we talked to about those programs have already been contacting her. They're very excited about letting the kids see the link and then also telling their families about it. So there is a lot of programming going on, and sometimes you might just have to, look at the other Facebook pages is what I'm trying to say, that sometimes you can catch some of the other things.
Well, and that's what I was wondering, if there could be a central location so we don't have to be on 9 Facebook pages. If it came out, if it could be shared on the one central page.
Yeah, Greg has done that.
Okay. I think this part of it is just as important as what we just voted on the Peregrine project about the master plan. I think it's so important that we let the patrons know what we're doing, because a lot of them aren't visiting the branches. So they're not going to see the new roof or care about the new roof. They're going to be caring about, oh, they increased Hoopla and I can get more books. Or, oh, they're doing this program on, the computer and my kids have access to it, because most of us aren't visiting the library.
Right.
Yep.
And like, for example, yesterday, Amber and I, when we went to the Monette branch, we had 188 kids in 13 classrooms we got to go see with social distancing. So we are, getting out there with, precautions and everything like that. And we don't know how long that picture is going to look that way. I don't know. But so, yeah, that is things that we are doing and sharing in the community.
Thanks, Jane.
I didn't even see that.
Okay. Director's report.
Well, as you can see, it's very short because it's only been a couple of weeks since we had our last meeting. So as I think I mentioned before, but we sort of solidified that we did decide to place one of the Aurora positions, the library assistant position, and the Cassville library position on hold. We'll revisit that at the end of the summer. And when we revisit what we're going to do about our hours, since we're not up to our full complement, and we're not as busy in-house as Katie pointed out, we have a lot of people that are just not coming in. We did hire Chelsea Bradley to fill the part-time library assistant position. She started July 6th, and she's been working out very well. She's a great addition. And then Amber Burnham was hired to fill the youth services position, and she started on Monday. And so far she's hit the ground running. Jane has already been here, and they've already gone to the school to visit. So, and I heard from one of my church members who's special needs. She texted me this morning and said how much she enjoyed the new children's person. So I thought that was really nice. That she did that. So we're perking right along. Like I think I mentioned last time, we've got the full-time youth position filled in Mount Vernon, and I think she's doing very well. Have you met her yet, Jan?
Haven't.
You'll like her. She's wonderful. And then, as Joyce mentioned, Pierce City, we had the air conditioning unit that had to be repaired, and they actually went out Tuesday. Yeah, it had to be replaced. They were able to get out there Tuesday, and the report is that it's up and running.
They finished it yesterday.
Yeah, they finished yesterday, if you can believe it. And so I know that Pierce City staff is happy because we've got another election coming up, and I know the election people will be real happy to have air conditioning in that room. So a couple of things I didn't get on here, but I did send you an email about is that Ruth Buckner has resigned from the board. And I'll just read her letter to you. I've already sent it to the commissioners in Berry County, along with a name that, and I'm sorry, I can't remember the woman's name right now, of a woman that Jennifer has talked with who's very excited about being a board member. So I'm hoping they'll appoint her and she'll be able to attend the August meeting. But Ruth says, it's with great regret I must withdraw from the board at this time. It's been such an honor to serve on your library board of directors. I've had a couple of trips to the hospital in the interim, and I'll let Jennifer fill in the blanks. Thanks again for the opportunity to serve on your board. It isn't often a person has a chance to serve the community in such a meaningful way. Best wishes for future endeavors. Sincerely, Ruth. So she did end up in the hospital again. And so at any rate, you know, we hate to lose her as a board member, but as you know, it's been difficult, especially with COVID, for her to even be able to attend the meetings when we can't send anybody to help her. So, and then the other thing I just want to mention that we did get, Greg did, if you've not seen it, post about being fine free. And we've had, I don't know how many shares, a lot, over 25, 26, at least when I've been looking at it. The comments have been interesting. We did have one customer who said now they had no incentive to bring the books back. And another customer replied and said, why do you need a fine incentive to bring your books back? So, and somebody else that was confused about what it meant. And so I responded to that. So, but I realized when you're trying to explain it, it sounds a little bizarre. So hopefully she understood what I was trying to say. What you can say in person is so different when you're typing it. So that's been going on. And I think people are pleased because they've been liking and loving that post. So
I think it's a little confusing since we put that it was because they voted yes, we were getting rid of fines. You know what I mean? So it looks like we were making, you know, some money, you know, really, when we weren't making money.
yeah. Yeah. And that's pretty much, I don't have, unless somebody else has something on there, that's pretty much it for the director's report.
Okay, need a motion to approve the director's report? Wendy
I'll
and
second.
Julie? All in favor? Motion carried. No old business, no new business, closed session? Or does Greg have something before?
Nope,
Okay.
I'm good. I'm jumping out.
Okay, thank you.
No problem.
Okay, we need a motion.
So
We've got to have a motion to go into closed session before I can turn off the YouTube.
We go in closed session.
I'll second.
And Julie.
all in favor?
Aye.
Motion carried.
Okay,
Closed session.
give me just a minute to stop the